The message lit up my screen like a slap. The Delacroix Family Reunion is this Friday at the Crescent Regency. Don't show up. No failures allowed. I leaned back in my leather chair, the skyline of downtown Atlanta shimmering through the 40th floor windows of my executive suite. The Crescent Regency wasn't just the most luxurious hotel in the Southeast. It was mine. 10 years ago, a message like that might have crushed me. Now, it almost made me laugh. Another text followed. We have an image to uphold. Don't embarrass us again. I glanced up at the gilded portrait on the wall, me, shaking hands with the Crescent family on the day I acquired their historic hotel brand in a $280 million 0-cents buyout. But no one in my family knew that. To them, I was still Natalie Delacroix, the dropout who left med school at 25 to play hotel maid instead of following the family's path of doctors and surgeons. They never asked what happened after. They didn't know I worked every shift possible. Housekeeping, front desk, valet, learning the industry from the roots up, or that I turned a tiny boutique inn in Savannah into a 5-star destination within 3 years. They certainly didn't know that I now ran one of the top hospitality groups on the East Coast. Another message blinked through, this one from my cousin Andrew. Mom says don't show up in your old housekeeping uniform. It's not cute anymore. These days, my uniform was a navy silk blouse and an Armani blazer, but Andrew wouldn't recognize that kind of success if it held a press conference. My assistant Janelle buzzed in. Mrs. Delacroix, the quarterly revenue report's on your desk, and the Devereaux family confirmed the transfer of their Miami resort. Perfect. And the Delacroix family reunion booking? Confirmed. They reserved the Regency ballroom and ordered the platinum champagne package. Would you like us to include it on their final invoice? Smiled. Aunt Cynthia had bragged online for weeks about hosting the reunion at Atlanta's most prestigious hotel. I stood, straightened my jacket, and glanced once more at the lobby camera feed. Let the family enjoy the grandeur. The Delacroix name wasn't just on the invitation. It was etched in gold above the entrance. No, let them think it's complimentary, for now. I set my phone down and swiveled in my chair, the view of downtown Atlanta glowing in the evening light. The family group chat was still pinging nonstop. Plans, RSVPs, tone-deaf excitement. My mother had chimed in now. Please understand, Natalie. Your aunt just wants everything to reflect well on the family. The Crescent Regency has standards, you know. Oh, we did have standards, just not the kind they assumed. I opened my laptop and clicked into the guest profiles my team had compiled for the Delacroix family. Aunt Cynthia had been flagged at multiple luxury hotels for attempting to use expired credit cards. Cousin Andrew was notorious for demanding comped upgrades and berating front desk staff. And Uncle Victor? Blacklisted at 2 chains after harassment complaints from housekeeping. The only reason they'd been accepted at my hotel was because they didn't know I owned it. Another buzz. Lena, my younger sister, and the only one in the family who knew the truth. Are you seriously going to let them walk into your empire like that? They're awful, Nat. Don't worry, I typed back. I've got something special planned. Lena had been there from the beginning, when I worked 14-hour days flipping rooms and shadowing managers, when I took out my first SBA loan, when I bought my first boutique hotel off Peachtree Street. She believed in me before I even had a front desk of my own. Promise me you'll record the moment, she messaged. Already done, I replied. Security footage, every angle, multiple backups. I leaned back, remembering the moment Aunt Cynthia kicked me out of her home during Andrew's engagement party. My offense? Daring to bring up that his fiancée had been sued 3 times for embezzlement? When the scandal broke months later, the family acted like I was the one who'd embarrassed them, not the one who'd tried to warn them. A knock broke my thoughts. Come in, I called. James Chin, my head of security, stepped in, tablet in hand. Ms. Delacroix, I finalized Saturday's surveillance plan. Are you sure you want to wait until they're all inside before we make the reveal? I smiled. Yes, let them soak it in, let them toast, let them believe they belong here. James nodded. He'd been with me since that first little inn. He knew the best reveals happen after the final glass is poured. He'd seen how hard I'd worked, how many nights I'd slept in storage closets between shifts, how many holidays I'd spent on the graveyard shift while my family drank champagne. And their room reservations? James asked. Cancel them. All of them. He raised an eyebrow. Even your parents? I paused, remembering the day I told my father I was leaving med school. No daughter of mine is going to be a janitor in some hotel, he snapped. If you walk away from medicine, you walk away from this family. Especially my parents. James nodded and made a note on his tablet. In the ballroom, set up? Strip it down, everything except one table, one chair, leave the chandeliers dark, except one spotlight on that chair. James chuckled. Psychological warfare. I like it. After he left, I wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse suite. The Atlanta skyline blinked back at me, the Crescent Regency's spire glowing above the streets where I once walked home in hand-me-down sneakers. This city watched me rise, not on family favors or last names, but grit, sacrifice, and resolve. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Cynthia, of course. We've hired photographers. Please don't ruin the photos. The Crescent has very high standards. I smiled, running my fingers along the gold-etched nameplate on my desk. Natalie Delacroix, CEO and owner, Crescent Hospitality Group. Oh, Aunt Cynthia, I murmured. You don't even know what our standards are. The rest of the week was meticulous. I reviewed security protocols, camera angles, and staff roles. My employees, many of whom had been humiliated by my family over the years, were thrilled to participate. Some even offered to work overtime for free. Friday night, I called Lena. Are you ready for tomorrow? Born ready, she laughed. Cameras charged. I've got angles planned like a film director. Then a pause. But Nat, are you sure about this? They're still your family. I looked at the framed photo of my younger self in a faded housekeeping uniform. They stopped being family the day they made me feel like a stain on their reputation. I glanced toward my closet. Tomorrow, I wouldn't wear a designer suit. I would wear that uniform, pressed, clean, and symbolic. The same one I wore when they dismissed me as nothing. Now, they would kneel beneath my name, carved in stone, over the doors they dared to walk through. If you've ever been underestimated or told you'd never make it, you won't want to miss what happens when they walk through those doors. So hit subscribe and join me for the moment they realize exactly whose name is on the building. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't need words. Sometimes all it takes is the perfect costume for the perfect moment. Saturday morning arrived in Atlanta with crisp skies and golden sunlight that filtered through the Crescent Regency's grand archways, the kind of flawless weather that couldn't be bought, only earned. I stood by my office window on the top floor, dressed in the neatly pressed housekeeping uniform I hadn't worn in a decade. It felt strange, but powerful. They're starting to arrive, James said through the intercom. Your Aunt Cynthia just tried to demand early check-in. I smirked. And when you told her the rooms weren't available? She asked to speak to the owner. And you said that the owner would be making a grand appearance shortly. On the security feed, Aunt Cynthia was posturing near the marble fountain in the lobby, her voice rising as she gestured furiously. Cousin Andrew stood beside her, tapping aggressively at his phone, no doubt preparing a venomous Yelp tirade. My parents had just walked in. My father in his tailored suit, lips pursed like he'd smelled something sour. My mother was draped in pearls. I knew she'd borrowed from a friend with better credit. Ballroom is set, James added. One table, one chair, spotlight as requested. And the folder? I asked, patting the thick binder on my desk. Inside it. Every dismissive text, every email where they mocked me, every online post bragging about leaving me out of important family events. Plus guest records cataloging their years of entitled, disrespectful behavior. And, most importantly, the hotel's ownership papers. Lena's in position with her camera, James said. Good. I sent a message to the family group chat. Hope you all enjoy your time at the Crescent Regency. The service here is excellent. The responses were instant and cruel. Aunt Cynthia, how would you know? They'd never let you in the lobby. Andrew, go back to scrubbing toilets. Mom, Natalie, please, don't ruin this for everyone. I watched as they read the message, still laughing, still convinced I was beneath them. Start phase 1, I said into the intercom. Minutes later, the front desk began turning them away one by one. Your reservation? I'm sorry, it's been canceled. No, there are no rooms available. And no, the owner isn't available to speak with you just yet. And Cynthia's face turned blotchy with rage. And I just watched, smiling. Victoria burst into tears the moment she realized there would be no suite for her to change in before the reunion. My father, never one to go quietly, began tossing around legal threats, only to be met with a polite smile and the statement, "The Crescent Regency has exceptional legal counsel, sir." Phase 2, I said into the intercom, watching the chaos unfold on screen. Our concierge staff, practiced and poised, began guiding the increasingly agitated Delacroix family toward the grand ballroom. But as the ornate double doors opened, their excited chatter faltered. No floral arrangements, no gold-accented tables, just a cavernous dark space, and a single spotlight shining down on one empty chair. There must be some mistake, my mother's voice rang out, tight with embarrassment. No mistake, Mrs. Delacroix, James answered smoothly. The owner asks that each of you step forward, one at a time, into the light. This is outrageous, Aunt Cynthia shrieked. Do you even know who we are? I demand to speak to the owner. I stepped through the ballroom doors. Your request is granted. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Every head turned. 40 pairs of eyes locked on me. Standing there in my old housekeeping uniform, folder in hand, I watched confusion bloom into disbelief. Natalie, my father's voice cracked. What are you doing here? Why are you dressed like... He trailed off. Like what? I walked calmly to the spotlight. Like a maid? Like someone beneath you? Like someone you disowned because she followed her own path? If this is a joke, Aunt Cynthia began, but I cut her off. It's not, though watching your meltdowns over canceled reservations was a highlight. I reached the light, lifted my chin, and faced them. You see, the Crescent Regency does have standards. We don't cater to guests who scream at staff. We don't honor expired credit cards. And we certainly don't serve people who confuse money with character. Victoria gasped. You're just the maid. I smiled. Actually, I'm the owner of this hotel and the Crescent Hospitality Group, 15 properties across 3 continents. I opened the folder and let it fall open with a clean, satisfying thwack. Let's take a little walk down memory lane, shall we? I began reading their words, their insults, their betrayals. My mother's voice trembled. That's impossible. What's impossible, Mom? I asked gently. That your so-called failure daughter now owns the ballroom you're standing in? The most exclusive hotel in the city? I echoed. And the person you wouldn't even invite to Thanksgiving now owns the keys. I could buy and sell this family 100 times over. But the rooms? Aunt Cynthia sputtered. Cancelled, I said coolly, on my orders, just like this reunion. I let the silence stretch. The Crescent Regency has very high standards, and we don't host events for guests who belittle service workers. You can't do this, Andrew shouted. All my friends are coming. This is humiliating. I stepped closer, voice steady. Humiliating, like being told I was an embarrassment, like being excluded from every family milestone for not fitting your little fantasy? I turned toward the back of the room. Security. James stepped forward with his team, calm and professional. Please escort everyone out, I said. If they resist, we have footage. If they escalate, we have documentation from every hotel they've mistreated staff in, and if necessary, well, the press always needs material. Natalie, please. My father stepped toward me. No, I said firmly. Where was this energy when I needed you? When I was scrubbing floors at 3 a.m. just to pay off a business loan? When you told me I was throwing my life away? The security team guided them out, protests and sobs trailing behind them like a broken parade. Oh, and one last thing, I called after them. To the one she ordered, the one you assumed was complimentary, you'll each be receiving a personal bill. with a service charge. Once the ballroom emptied, Lena emerged from her discreet filming spot. That was legendary. But seriously, are you okay? I looked around at the vast, quiet room. Where once I was denied a seat at the table, I now owned the table. I'm perfect. That evening, I changed back into my usual outfit and watched the Atlanta skyline burn gold with sunset. My phone buzzed endlessly, calls, texts, voicemails, some apologetic, others enraged, all deleted. The next morning, every major society page ran the headline, Hotel Empire Heiress Shuts Down Family Reunion Over Class Discrimination. They praised my rise, from overlooked maid to hospitality mogul. A week later, an envelope arrived. From my father. Handwritten, no return address. And I hadn't decided yet whether to open it. Inside the envelope was a formal letterhead from Delacroix, Carr & Keene, my family's legacy law firm. An offer to join as a named partner. I sent back a housekeeping uniform and a handwritten note. No thanks, I prefer owning buildings, renting offices inside them. The Crescent Regency only grew stronger. Its reputation for discretion, luxury, and integrity made it a beacon in the Southeast hospitality scene. I made it a core policy to hire and promote those who, like me, had started at the bottom. People with grit, curiosity, and no safety net. Every new employee heard my story. Not as a revenge tale, but as a reminder. Real success isn't inherited, it's built. One late night at the hotel, I slipped on that old uniform and walked the halls. Not out of nostalgia, but reverence for the girl I used to be. The one who vacuumed sweets while her family snickered behind her back. She wasn't broken. She was becoming. And now, everyone knew it. The Delacroix family never hosted another reunion at a luxury venue. They couldn't. Word travels fast among high-ex hoteliers, and apparently my story resonated. Some even framed it in their offices. A reminder that success doesn't always arrive in a designer suit. Sometimes it wears a name tag and carries keys. Like the spotlight in the ballroom. During orientation tours, I'd pause beside it, and I'd tell the story of the day I stood beneath that beam in a maid's uniform, teaching my entire family a lesson they'd never forget. It wasn't about vengeance. It was about value, and proving once and for all that I became someone no one thought I could be. Natalie Delacroix, hotel magnate, CEO, founder. Not bad for a so-called failure. Hey, if you felt something watching this unfold, if you've ever been dismissed, underestimated, or told you're not enough, hit that subscribe button and stand with me. Your support isn't just for my story, it's for everyone who's ever started at the bottom and dared to rise. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me what part of this hit home. Let me know if you've ever worn a uniform they looked down on, only to build something no one saw coming. Your voice matters here. Let's build a community that celebrates growth, grit, and quiet power.